Guys, if you're joining us in this video itself, thank you so much. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for these, or join us as a part of these live shows as we have a really great time. All links are everywhere. You can find us if you want us in this regard. But today we're actually talking about the Final Fantasy XIV Blue Mage. As we are now deep into the patch 6.2 cycle, that's when we're recording this video, and looking forward to what's coming with 6.3 and 6.4. You know, there's a lot to be excited about, but the question remains is, when will we see Blue Mage actually receive its next kind of bit of content, its next bump in its level? When did we actually see the last one? Was it in was it 5.1 or 5.2, Chris? So I'll let you pull that up while I pontificate.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have that anywhere.
So it was traditionally it was added in the 4 series, in sometime in Shadowbringers. They bumped up its level, which
was added late in Stormblood, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a FanFest announcement.
Yeah, and
it was
added in
announcement, and it dropped same expansion.
Yeah, and so it was at the end of the expansion, and so then they said, hey, with the patches, we'll see its level cap increase, etc. We did eventually see that in Shadowbringers. I do feel like it was in 5.2. Yeah, I do feel like that's when it was. And now we're already in 6.2, so the question is, will we see a Blue Mage edition in 6.3? Is that the time to do it? Because that's essentially how it works. And chat's actually saying 5.3 because they had to delay because of the virus. So that could actually be kind of true. So we could probably speculate that 6.3 might be when we see the Blue Mage get updated yet again. But it already feels like such a powerhouse of a job in and of itself. So I think its power level going all the way to 80 would be pretty ridiculous. What do you think?
So they announced it at FanFest. FanFest typically happens during the 0.4 patch. And so it first released in patch 4.5. We don't remember when it released in 5. We're here, you know, we thought 5.2, somebody saying 5.3, Fido saying 5.4. Either way, released sometime in Shadowbringers. We got an update to 70. Now, what is exciting about 70 was that was the first time that we saw it in all of its glory. Everything up to 70 was pre-designed. When they first announced it at FanFest, they said they had all the abilities to 70 already set in stone. And so when we all made up our minds whether or not we liked it at 50 or at 60 or at 70, like that's not really the point, right? Because we're all seeing partial pictures. But at this point, we've seen everything in its original intent, which means the next round is the first round that in its entirety could have benefited from community feedback. Maybe there were some adjustments to the other stuff, but this is the first step that would be entirely done after the original release. So they would have all that feedback in mind. And that's really exciting. So the next 10 levels is going to be, in my mind, an inherently different meaning for what a limited job is, because it changes it moving forward. It's a big difference. Now, last October at the media tour, there was a question offhand by, I believe, one of the Spanish-speaking creators to one of the community team members. So it wasn't like a big Yoshi P media tour interview question. So we didn't get a lot of feedback. Just saying like, hey, you guys didn't really mention Blue Mage. What's the deal with Blue Mage? And they said there will be a Blue Mage update in Endwalker. And that was about it. It was just confirmation that the content was coming. And that's all we got. We just got confirmation that it will get what we assume is another 10 levels, what we assume is another round of spells, what we assume is getting it into that kind of Shadowbringers content. The question is when. 5.2 is going to introduce the criterion and variant system, as well as the next round of Savage. So something for everybody. 5.3 is going to add Deep Dungeon and a new Ultimate and new Alliance raids and start the Relic. So I think it's a fairly loaded patch. 5.4, we assume we would get another FanFest during that cycle if we're going back to FanFest. And so it looks like that's why we're all remembering different dates. So we went to 60 and to 70 during the 5.0 series. That's why we're all confused, because there were 2 Blue Mage updates. That makes sense. And so it looks like, if I had to guess, I would put it in 6.4 or 6.5, where we will get new Island Sanctuary updates, new variant Criterion Dungeon updates, but we don't have anything truly new slated for those patches. We'll get our final round of Savage during there. We'll get our final round of Alliance raids, but it's all continuations on existing content. So I think that's the time, in my opinion, to introduce something like truly standalone new.
Would this also be the time to introduce something like a Puppet Master or Beastmaster around the same time, maybe with a FanFest style announcement?
Now we're getting really hypothetical. So getting wildly tinfoil hat on, how do we go from there? I don't have any tinfoil here. as we get wildly kind of tinfoil hat here. So, so I've got my green screen hat here. So I would say that if we're going to add another limited job, I would introduce the new Blue Mage in the 0.4. And then if it were me at FanFest, I would say, I heard you guys like limited jobs, plural. What if we gave you Puppet Master in 0.5?
Yeah, I'd personally love that. Because that's one of the things you and I have remarked on multiple times, namely in that it's a limited job system. Like that equals Blue Mage. So if you don't like it, so a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like the limited system because I don't like Blue Mage. And then all of a sudden, maybe they introduce Puppet Master, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, this opens up the game to be able to play it in broken and different, unique ways. Like, let's go, let's have some fun. Like, I would love it, especially if they especially like whether they go back and do the other deep dungeons, but if they say that the next deep dungeon has the ability to have a Blue Mage mode, just as like, yeah, okay, Blue Mages, we get you, we know you want to play this content. Here is this special version of the deep dungeon that you can play in if you want to.
Carnival.
Yeah, the Carnival, baby. And we're going to use this all to get, we're going to take all of these things that are somewhat off on their own. We've kind of experimented on them. We're iterating them like a deck of cards, and all of a sudden we have this almost perfect, near perfect piece of content that literally just is like, you want to play in a curated way? Boom. You want to break this thing and just go nuts? Here you go. I think that would be truly interesting, etc. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, now Puppet Master and Beastmaster, and all of a sudden you have a kind of an on-ramp to be able to do a lot of things where a lot of people, when you look at like what job do they really add next to the game, there's a handful of things that people might like as a theme, but in terms of like actual skills and the current battle system, I think the limited actually opens up the game to be way more interesting in terms of its battle content, much like they did with PvP. Like, it just opens up the game to be way more what it is as a part of its PvE cycle. What do you think?
I mean, I think open world content feels really disjointed with how good the game can feel in the instance content this time around. I would love a job or a change to the job system, the existing jobs that allowed my classes to feel more fantastical when I'm out just doing tribal dailies, when I'm out just doing solo hunts, treasure maps in the open world portion, grinding fates. So if that's a limited job, that would be fine. I think right now the limited job is synonymous with Blue Mage. It'd be like if we only had paladins and people are like, I don't like tanking. Do you not like tanking or do you not like paladin? Like, we don't know until you go in and you say, okay, now there's warrior, now there's gunbreaker, now there's dark knight. Oh, I just don't like paladin. That's fine. And so I think adding variety to what the limited job system is will tell us like what is a limited job versus what is a Blue Mage, because right now there's no way to separate those. And it would be neat to see that added, regardless what it is. I think people have asked for Alchemist over the years, and there is some logic within kind of Gentleman Zombie within that stuff to say like, well, maybe there's some lost Beladian alchemy as we look to the conflict between the Sildine and Ul'dah. So there's some lore. Like, I've always thought that was kind of a weird job. Like, if we have Alchemist as a crafter, like, what would that even look like? But now that we've learned a little more about that stuff, as I finally like start to go do Hildebrand lore and all that, you could do, I mean, there's all sorts of themes you could do. Puppet Master would be a blast. Beastmaster would be a blast. Beastmaster, if you're off collecting, now that we've been places in 6.0 that show us kind of the historic versions, now that we've seen that Carbuncle used to have a more dangerous form, Beastmaster could be really cool if you got to kind of travel through time and space and go track down these ancient historic versions of these beasts, and kind of have those, especially if we had this sort of like island that we could keep them in a sanctuary and raise them. And so like there's a lot of groundwork laid for a second limited job. I just don't know that we'll actually get one. If we did, I would announce it at FanFest. If it were me, I would do it just like the last one, where it's just part of the hype cycle, and it's just kind of it acted in a way as our return event. World of Warcraft has this big returners event that feels really special to be a part of going into an expansion. So it helps reward the hype cycle. You're like, oh, I want to be back. What are we doing here? And it's like, oh yeah, we're doing this return stuff. Okay, very cool. And so I think Blue Mage acted as that. It was this thing like, hey, we're all excited to be logged in. What do we do? Oh, we go grind Blue Mage. And so I think having a second limited job would be a really fun way to bring us into 7.0. I think next FanFest could easily be looking at like next summer.
Yeah, that is
So this would
actually.
be a ways out.
Do you think that they target FanFest to be on the 10-year or around the 10-year anniversary of ARR?
Man, screw you, EU and JP. NA gets to celebrate the anniversary. The math
It
isn't
could be all
terrible.
summer. It could be all summer. What's the math on it? I'll let you pull that up because.
All right. So
yeah.
the math gets really goofy as soon as you look out more than a half patch, because any guess you have that's wrong ripples into all your other guesses, right? So if you're late on one, you're late on all of them. If you're early on one, you're early on all of them. But over here on the Twitch side, I have this pulled up. So my guess is I put a specific date, but really I should be guessing a range. I think 6.3 releases early next year. I put January 10th, could be earlier. I don't think they slide 6.3 into this year, which pushes 6.4 immediately out to spring, maybe early summer. So I guessed May. That would slide FanFest to July. There is nothing stopping them from kicking that out to the anniversary.
Right.
That puts us in 6.5 sometime in the fall, sometime around now to maybe 2 or 3 months from now. Obviously, the date ranges get longer and longer the further out you go. I guess the first week in October, but these dates will continue to get updated as we move on. And then I think JP will be the second FanFest. I think it's their turn. And that'll put them in the half patch at the end of next year, and then move into EU and 7.0 in early of 24. But I mean, maybe they accelerate that schedule. Maybe they slow it down. And so sliding that to the anniversary is incredibly intriguing. I really hadn't thought of that.
I mean, it could be that they kick it off, in that regards, because it isn't just one FanFest. It ends up being kind of three. And so that would mean that we would actually, if they start to do that, we would start hearing about a FanFest probably this fall, especially if they go in a physical way, which I really want them to have a physical FanFest. Not because, like, literally to the point where, like, I don't know how y'all's couple years have been, but to the point where, like, I would probably be like, oh, there's announcements happening. Like, I would be more interested. Like, if everybody's going to the announcements, then I will go. But I would be fine parking myself with a couple of drinks and literally just hanging out with everybody just to have that physical social. Like, we did it, and then like, oh, tell me what I missed. I'll watch it later on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it'd be San Diego again. I think the intent to move to San Diego, I don't think that's changed. I think they moved to San Diego because it gave them greater control over the venue, and it gave them a venue that had more seats. And so I think there was a value there, and it made it easier to organize because it is closer to their LA studios. They didn't say any of those reasons. Those are my guesses. And so I think all those reasons stay true. Now that you've missed a FanFest, there's even more pressure for this one to be really great. So if there is a FanFest this time around that's physical, I think it's San Diego all over again. And I would absolutely love to be in San Diego, whether or not I get tickets.
Yeah. It's like
whether or not I get tickets.
We don't have tickets. I'm going to be there.
If we don't get tickets, I would say don't do a hotel room on site. Go do a VRBO so that we can have like a TV and watch the big digital and have like a watch party like you would for, how do we have to say it online? We have to call it the big game in February.
The big game.
The big game. So yeah, I would love to make it more of a watch party and do that. That would be really fun. Digital tickets are free, so it doesn't matter where you end up.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Does Final Fantasy 16 impact any of that? No. Final Fantasy 16 doesn't impact it. Final Fantasy 11 doesn't impact any of it. None of my schedule impacts for that. Recent interviews have confirmed what many of us suspected, that Yoshi P has had so many resources pulled off to 16 for so long now, that when people are like, oh my gosh, now that we're hearing of all these resources being drained from 14, is it going to fall behind? And he's like, yeah, except that I pulled those off 4 years ago. And so 14 has been running steadily. So instead of announcing the moment he pulled off the resources so that we could all speculate, he pulled off the resources, let things run as normal, went through what has been some incredible content cycles, and then revealed to us, by the way, you've been on what you guys were concerned was maybe a less capable team. And now the proof is in the pudding, right? Like we've got proof that this team is more than capable of blowing our minds, with Shadowbringers and Endwalker both being entirely already with the 16 team in full force.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into the, actions speak louder than words, as opposed to like letting people know and then, oh no, like we can all kind of speculate in that regards, but it's like, all right, let's just show up and do the work and not sit here and be like, give anybody any reason to be frustrated. But Pharma Girl gifting out some more subs over on Twitch as well, so thank you, Pharma Girl, for that support. Guys, if you aren't following over on Twitch, Chris streams right now Monday through Friday. You've got a big break coming up So why don't we just kind of run down the current schedule that we're looking at for September, if you guys want to and find a way to kind of support you and what you do. Yeah, man, what's going on?
Every other week, I cover more lore. For my first time as a longtime story skipper, I am in Heavensward content. I did the Dark Knight stuff for the first time last week. All of that gets pushed over to gaming lore, kind of, if anybody wants to see a particular moment and misses it. Just kind of like Chris cuts those down to more like TV episodic links and pushes those over so you don't have to go try to scrub through a bunch of old streams. And then the in-between weeks, I've been playing Guild Wars, WoW, and 14. I'd love to add more games to that as I get those a little more like what feels like caught up and like a current player, because I just haven't played this much. Even as a full-time content creator, I really haven't emphasized this much on game time. And so I've gotten a lot done as I try to move into the top 1,000 ranked players on my server in all 3 games for total number of achievements, total amount of game cleared. And so I've been moving through that. I'm really close on 14. For top 1,000 on Sargatanas. And so I think I can get there if I just push a little bit harder. And those have been Monday through Friday. I start at like 8 a.m. And that is because I'm trying to get as much time in as possible before I take the last week off. So I think I'm going to piece out that Friday and kind of get the house clean and all that. And my wife and I have been married 10 years this year. And we've had a hard time with her getting time off work because she took a new job this year and it's been slammed. And so the last week of September is the week that they said, yeah, we won't be busy then. As it's gotten closer, they're like, oh my God, you're not really gone, are you? And we're like, no, please. We set this out way in the future. And I think it was really easy for everybody to agree to. Like, yeah, September, that'll be fine. Oh my God, that's now. And so they are starting to regret that. I think they're a smaller company. So I think having any member of the team out for a full week is hard. So hopefully we'll get to enjoy some time together, and I won't be streaming that week. So, but Brian, you've been streaming a lot as well.
Yeah. So you guys can catch me over on Twitch. I actually been doing Monday nights and I still do my Fridays. So Fridays have had a couple different start times, namely with me ending up in the ER this last Thursday night. I started a little late on Friday. I was like, oh my gosh, started a little bit late on Friday in and of itself, but we had a good time regardless. I was a little bit, a little bit doped up on some codeine. So some really funny moments. If you guys want to go catch out that VOD, I don't know if anybody clipped anything, but if they did, I'll have to go back and try to make some shorts because some good fun times have been had. And then right now Mondays, and then typically I usually do my open mics on Mondays, and been doing some more comedy showcases, etc. But for September here, we're working on Monday nights, and then occasionally last week it was like Monday and Tuesday. This week it might be a Monday and a Thursday. It really just depends on what Julie has, what committee she's currently on. What night she's like, yeah, go stream because I'm not even going to be here and the kids go to bed. So I'm trying to also get a couple more evenings in where we're doing like last Tuesday we did our weekly clears. Actually that got delayed to Thursday because my sub expired, and then many people within the community has really stepped up and helped me out in terms of getting my sub turned back on for 14, because I was like, all right, I looked in PayPal and I was like, we haven't got paid from Twitch yet. All right, I guess I have to wait.
Nope, we have not.
So it's like we do appreciate y'all's support. So whether you're subbed over on Twitch, whether you're over here as a member on the Work to Game, or supporting us individually over at Gaming Kinda and Ginger Prime, we thank you guys so much for that support and helping kind of steady the waters a bit, because ad revenue is such a weird thing. I don't know if you follow any other content creators, but I'm sure they were all like, the bigger ones were fine, but they were still sweating a little bit, especially if teams, because it was like, I was talking with ACG, he's like, holy crap, dude. Like, it's like, you usually can expect this, like in your low end. And like this summer was just like nothing. Nobody's got like ad money was just like absolutely in the trash. So,
I have a buddy that, he has multiple employees. He runs several large channels, and there's like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And, he ran negative balances through basically all spring of this year. Which means you're just pulling from savings, which is why it's there, but you're just watching that number.
Yeah. It never feels good to draw down from that. And so we had to I've had some contracts continue to be put on hold. So all of a sudden I was like, when I looked at the numbers, I was like, oh man, I'm putting all this time into content creation. I was like, I love it.
For Twitch.
Twitch
has been much better this year.
Yeah. Twitch is actually, it's so funny talking about how people are just like dogging on it. And it's like, it's actually doing a little bit better than it ever has for us. So
last year we were like, yeah, we're YouTubers. We Twitch sometimes. And this year I'm like, YouTube who? God.
So for those of you who do and support us financially, thank you so much. For those of you who are also here watching these videos, liking these videos, hanging out on the live stream, that is support. So just never feel like there's a tier system. We recognize that y'all being here is huge in what we do and how we can make the content that we make. So again, thank you guys from both Chris and I, bottom of our heart. Thank you also for Farmer Girl, for Phil, for Floppy. Y'all have also given out some massive support in the last 48 to 72 hours, and that's just we cannot thank you guys enough for like being as generous as you are. So Chris, why don't you any final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up the show and let you get back to all your lore stuff that you're working on today.
No, Lore Week was last week. This week, Guild Wars Mondays. We've been working towards a dragon scale, so that's been a really fun journey. So long stream ahead of us, and we'll be in Final Fantasy Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week, and World of Warcraft on Wednesday. I might move Fridays to be in variety. I don't know. But been having a ton of fun.
I'd love to get you back on some New World, just so that way at some point you get to that.
I was thinking true variety, not just an MMO player playing another MMO. I had a lot of fun in Game Pass this weekend.
Yeah,
like a lot of fun, and I love that you just switch games.
Yeah.
Now I will say that's biased because that's Game Pass with fiber, and so when you decide to switch games, it's like, why don't you go get a drink of water? It'll be done when you get back. Yeah. So there is a that might take a little more foresight. We might with limited hard drive space and not fiber. So that's the benefit of living in an urban area. I can hear traffic at night, but I have really good internet. So guys, I'm gonna go get back to streaming. And then Brian and I are hopefully doing more of these collabs as often as he does not have infected teeth. So that is kind of how we're setting our schedule right now. We just say, does Brian have infected tooth? If no, then record. And so that's been the joy. Thank you guys so much for being here. Farmer Girl, thanks for gifting all those subs out. And it's good to see you guys.
All right.